Get ready to be jolted out of the ordinary and into a world where conversations are charged with intensity and facts. The Lightning Strike Talk Radio with your host, Mohammed Faheem, broadcasting live from the heart of the city on Chicago's Progressive Talk Radio, WCPT 820 AM. Welcome to a radio show that charges through the airwaves with an electricity like no other. Here's your host, Mohammed Faheem.
And good morning, Chicago. Welcome to the Lightning Strike. We got a power pack show for you today on WCPT. If you want to call in and talk to us, the number is 773-763-WCPT or 763-9278. We're going to be talking with quite a few people today about what happened recently, the horrific murder of a 6-year-old child in Plainfield. This was in response to what is happening in the Middle East, and we are really grateful to the village of Plainfield for taking the lead on this and letting the whole world know that Plainfield and Will County are welcoming places where there is no room for hate. Joining me this morning is John Argoudelis, Mayor of Plainfield. Good morning, Mayor.
Good morning, Mohammed. How are you this morning?
Pretty good, and thank you so much for taking some time early in the morning on Sunday to join us. So Plainfield in the news nationally and internationally, not for the right reason, Mayor. What do you have to say about it?
Well, I mean, we were very shocked, all of us, with this horrible murder. And, of course, I think of these things, and we've been thinking a lot about this and talking a lot about this, but you just never know where someone like this dwells. You know, I went to a football game yesterday. It could be at a football game. It could be in a grocery store. And it's just you never quite know how to protect yourselves from this. Certainly, this person had some mental illness issues going on, and plus influenced probably by a lot of the extreme things said in the media.
Right, and I guess in the conversations with the sheriff's office and folks, Deputy Sheriff Dan Jungles would be joining us also shortly after the mayor, and he is the lead investigator on the case, and he will be updating us on the latest as to what happened. But in conversations, Mayor, with the sheriff's office, the offender's wife said, according to the news media, that he was watching extreme right-wing media and listening to radio, and he snapped. And that is so critical. The guy basically was like a grandfather to this child. The family lived in his house as renters. So, yeah, I'm glad you brought up that point that words matter, folks. What our leaders say matter. And Plainfield, under the leadership of John Argoudelis, is really taking the lead in bringing the community together. Mayor, you want to talk about the vigil that happened the next day after the funeral of the boy?
Yes, it was really in a moment where the community came together, first and foremost, to mourn the loss of Wadea and to stand by his family. The father was there and many of the relatives. And importantly, I know that there was a great outpouring from the community that Plainfield wanted to make a statement against hate, rejecting this crime, and rejecting the motivation behind it. We had several thousand people there. It was a remarkable event of coming together as a community and making that statement.
Wonderful. I have got in the studio with me again my friend Ken DeLuke, and Tidy Pipkins has joined me in the studio also. Ken, you got any questions, any suggestions for the mayor?
Given the enormity of that impact that's had on the and literally the whole world, do you have any plans moving forward to address this issue?
Well, one of the things is, since I've been mayor, as an important part of what I believe for Plainfield. I've lived in Plainfield all my life, and I've seen the growth from a few thousand people to over 45,000 people today. And I see the diversity in our community. And I'm constantly preaching about the importance of everybody in this community, not just the people that have been here all their lives like I have been, and that we need to embrace our diversity, be inclusive, and be kind and loving towards one another. I think these are basic human requirements there. With regards to some specifics, our police have stepped up their presence at schools and other areas where people are gathering publicly. A lot more uniformed officers on the street to see, so it's very visible that we're doing this. And we met with one of the local mosques Friday afternoon, and we will be meeting with our other mosque in the next Friday or so to talk to the community, the Muslim community in Plainfield, to reassure them, to hear from them on what their thoughts and concerns are. There was a compelling moment at our village board meeting when a young lady in a hijab spoke, and she said how she felt like a target because she wears the hijab, and that she's very identifiable, and she was scared that something might happen to her. And it was a compelling moment. It really struck me that, unfortunately, due to the atmosphere right now, there's a lot of fear in America and in Plainfield in particular.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Mayor, thank you so much for your leadership. I know that you have to head off to church this morning. And thank you so much for taking the time to join us on WCPT. And we would love to hear back from you if there are any updates and anything that is happening. And again, thank you so much for your leadership and concern for not just the Muslim community, but for the community in general in Plainfield. I have personally seen how you have brought Plainfield together. And for 2,000 people to show up at 24 hours notice, and even the White House to send a representative down for the vigil, speaks a lot about what Will County and what Plainfield is. Thank you for joining us, Mayor John Argoudelis. Any final thoughts that you want to share with us?
Thank you, Mohammed. By strange and ironic coincidence, I'm driving by the house at this moment, and I see it piled high with flowers and soccer balls in memory of young Wadea. And it's important that we do not forget Wadea after a week or two or a month or two, that we remember this horrible crime in Plainfield for a long time to come.
Thank you so much for joining us. And that's Mayor John Argoudelis of Plainfield. And continuing the conversation, folks, the good folks in Plainfield, all the restaurants, most of them, like about 10 or 12 restaurants, are coming together to do a fundraiser for the family of the murdered child this coming Wednesday. The fundraiser is being coordinated by Jamie Little of Mojo's restaurant. And if you want to make a contribution, if you want to drop off any kind of contribution for the family on Wednesday, please look up Mojo's, Moejoes in Plainfield. And the number to call is 815-230-2790. And again, the number 815-230-2790. And we will update this information on the website for the lightning strike, which is TLS for the lightning strike, Chicago.com. And we'll have all the information and the participating restaurants over there, and I will be announcing the names also shortly. And on that, let's take a quick break, and we'll come back after the break with Deputy Sheriff Dan Jungles.
Are you a business looking for the right talent or a job seeker searching for your dream career? Look no further than the Center for Strategic Solutions, your workforce solutions experts. Our experienced team at the Center for Strategic Solutions is dedicated to connecting employers with top-tier talent and helping job seekers find opportunities that truly align with their goals.
You're hired.
We're more than just consultants. We're your partners in success. Ready to take your workforce to the next level or land that ideal job? Contact the Center for Strategic Solutions today at 1-847-306-9274 or visit us online at www.cfss.us. The Center for Strategic Solutions, your bridge to a brighter future in the Windy City. The number to call is 847-306-9274 or send us an email at info@cfss.us. That is is info@cfss.us.
Welcome back to the Lightning Strike with Mohammed Faheem.
Good morning, folks, and welcome back to the Lightning Strike. I'm your host, Mohammed Faheem, and joining me now on WCPT 820 AM is Dan Jungles. And Dan, I would like you to introduce yourself.
Sure, no problem, Mohammed. Thanks for having me on. My name is Dan Jungles, Deputy Chief with the Will County Sheriff's Office, and I've been helping our department work through this tragic incident that occurred last Saturday on the 14th. Where Wadea and his mother Shaheen were brutally attacked, and Wadea ultimately lost his life.
So, Dan, in your days as with the Will County Sheriff's Department, have you seen anything like this in your career?
Well, I've been with the Will County Sheriff's Department for going on 25 years. And in those 25 years, I've been involved in most every major incident or murder within the Will County Sheriff's Office jurisdiction, probably in the last 20 years. So, this particular incident is going to affect me personally. All of the first responders that responded to that call that morning or that afternoon, for a very, very long time, because this was just a senseless and cowardice act, perpetrated by an offender who is, simple-minded or closed-minded, hatred for others, not like him. And obviously my heart breaks for the family, for Shaheen, for her father, or for Wadi's father, and for the loss of Wadi.
So, walk me through what happened. When did you guys get the call that morning?
Sure. So Saturday the 14th at about 11:38 a.m., deputies with the Will County Sheriff's Office were sent to an address in unincorporated Plainfield Township for a stabbing that was occurring. The caller was Hanan Shaheen. She's a 32-year-old woman who's originally from from Palestine, and she had called and said that her neighbor or her landlord was attacking her and attacking her son. She had been beaten several times by the offender. I don't even want to mention his name because he doesn't deserve that kind of publicity or respect, but he started punching on her. He started stabbing her with a knife. She barricaded herself in a bathroom to try to stop the attack, and then he walked away for a short period of time. She had dialed 911 and had relayed all of this, and then the unthinkable happened when her son started to get attacked by this offender.
So he came back and started attacking the son. Dan, how tall or how well built is Shaheen Hanan?
Shaheen, I mean, she's a tiny woman. She's 32 years old. I'm guessing she's maybe 5 foot, maybe 100 pounds.
Wow.
She is a tiny woman. And with the amount of rage and the amount of, senseless act here, you have a man who's close to probably 6 feet. He's not a very bulky guy. He's a pretty skinny guy, but, it doesn't take much to overpower a woman her size, even given his age, because he is in his 70s. But he was also armed with a military-style knife that, realistically, that knife only has one purpose, and that is to hurt someone.
Oh, folks, my heart goes out to the family, and like I was saying in the vigil also, Dan, just imagine a 6-year-old kid and I believe that he had just turned 6 a couple of weeks back, or 10 or 12 days back. And here's a 6-foot tall person stabbing this 6-year-old child, looking him in the eyes. Just draw that word picture, folks. And if you have children and grandchildren, it'll scare the bejesus out of you. Horrible, just horrible. Ken, you have a question for Dan.
Yeah, Dan, do you know the status of Shaheen's condition right now? Is she recovering? Is everything looking good prognosis?
Hanan Shaheen was released from the hospital on Friday. We've been, the Will County Sheriff's Office and some other community partners have been working with her since the beginning of this incident in trying to secure her some temporary housing while she recovers, and some permanent housing now. So she is recovering, but she has a long road of recovery. She is never going to be right, ever. She is going to have a hole in her heart for the rest of her life because of this act of violence against her and her son. And my heart breaks for her and her family and for the death of Wadea, and it's just an awful incident.
Oh, boy. So, Dan, coming back to the offender now, when is his next court hearing?
I believe his next court hearing is October 30th. It'll be a status hearing of some sort.
Okay.
With the newly enacted laws in Illinois regarding the Safety Act, I don't see him getting out of jail. All of the crimes that he's been charged with are detainable offenses. So I do not see him getting out of jail for a long, long time.
So is that hearing going to be an open public hearing, or is that a closed hearing?
That I don't know. I mean, most hearings in the Will County courtroom they're all open hearings.
Okay.
Anyone can come to those. It's just a matter, in this particular case, I'm sure the courtroom is going to be packed, so there'll have to be people that are probably left outside the courthouse,
okay,
or outside the courtroom.
Yeah, and I don't want to publicly ask you what time the hearing is going to be, because then it's going to be packed more than what you could normally expect. Coming back to the condition of the offender, how is he faring in jail now?
He is, currently on close observations. He is, he is elderly. He's in his 70s. I can't really comment on his medical status or anything like that. But he to my knowledge, he is fine in jail. There have been no incidents of him being violent or any kind of outbursts or anything like that.
Now, is he in with the general population, or is he by himself?
No, right now he's by himself because he's on medical observation.
Okay.
So in our jail, we have different sections of the jail. We call them pods.
Okay.
There's intake pods. There's general population pods. There's women. There's disciplinary pods. He's actually in the medical pod right now.
Ken, got any more questions for Dan? So, Dan, my question is, again, and this is, a lot of people have been asking me about what actually drove this guy to do this. I mean, did he have any kind of a history of violence or any other interaction with the sheriff's department in the past?
Sure. So I can tell you this: we have not had any contact with him prior to this incident. We have never been called to the house for anything. I believe he has one written citation in the past in the county. He does have a previous arrest that occurred in California, but nothing violent. It wasn't. From all accounts, from talking to different individuals that have been in contact with this individual, recently, and with Hanan Shaheen. She had indicated that the change in his mood occurred once Hamas had gone into Israel, and that whole Middle East conflict kind of kicked up. So that was kind of the catalyst of everything, where he started to kind of act a little weird, and he wanted her to leave his residence, because what a lot of people don't understand in this particular case, it was originally reported that it was a landlord and renter kind of attack. But Hanan lived in his house with the offender and his wife. She rented 2 rooms from them inside their old farmhouse. So, this house is probably a 100-year-old home, and she rented 2 of those rooms. She stayed in those rooms most of the time. There were some shared spaces like a kitchen, but she had a bathroom and a couple of bedrooms that were mainly for her and her children.
Hey, Dan, have you seen any uptick in the area? Obviously not to this extent, but the more racially motivated problems because of the situation?
Well, in Will County, we have not really seen that. I do know that on some of the outlying towns and whatnot, there have been some tensions raised and some conflicts, like just nothing violent, just threats of violence type of stuff. And in this particular instance, I've never been associated with any crime that's ever been charged with a hate crime where there was violence. And I've been with the sheriff's office almost 25 years. So this is not a normal thing in our community. Stuff like this just doesn't happen. And, I would like to think that, 99.999, % of the time, we're not going to have these kind of issues. But unfortunately, you have some bad actors that get involved in some things where people are trying to do good, like protests, and we've seen that in the past. We may continue to see something like that, but for the most part, all of our different kinds of hate crimes have all been spray paint, graffiti, that sort of thing, but not so much violence.
Well, Dan, thank you so much for joining us, folks. That is Dan Jungles, Deputy Sheriff, who's the lead investigator on the murder that is, that happened recently.
Thanks,
in Plainfield. And we'd love to have you come back and share information later on as it develops. And again, thank you so much for joining us on a Sunday morning. And folks, we'll take a quick break, and we'll be right back after this break. And we'll have Ahmed Rehab from CAIR as our guest to talk about ongoing developments and what's happening in the Middle East and what is happening locally, if there's any kind of activities that is impacting the community.
Did you know there's an Illinois mandate that states by 2025, ComEd has to have 25% of the energy they deliver come from a green source? Because of this, plus the fees and taxes you've already paid on this program, if you qualify, you can get solar on your home at no out-of-pocket cost. This can mean an average savings on your electric bill of maybe 30 to 50%. More importantly, it would eliminate the uncertainty of ComEd raising your rates by whoever knows how much each year. Some people have noticed a 41% increase on their bill this spring, and ComEd has been asking for another 80% increase over the next 4 years. If your average bill is $200 a month now, maybe it could be reduced to $100 a month. Now, 5 years, would you rather pay $115 or possibly $400 to $500? If you'd like to see if you can qualify for this program, call Ken DeLuke at 312-617-8979. That's 312-617-8979. Help us save the environment and change that electric bill burden. That's 312-617-8979. Take advantage of this program while it's still available.
Welcome back to the Lightning Strike with Mohammed Faheem.
Welcome back, folks. I'm your host, Mohammed Faheem. A very power-packed show today. We have had the mayor of Plainfield, John Argoudelis, as a guest on the show, and also the lead detective on the murder in Plainfield, Dan Jungles, who joined us recently. Folks, if you want to make any kind of contribution, if you want to support the family, please go to icna.org. That is ICNA.org, the Islamic Circle of North America. They are coordinating how to help the family, and also CAIR, C-A-I-R, is helping the family out. And with that, I've got Ahmed Rehab, the executive director of CAIR, on the line with us. Good morning, Ahmed. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning. It's a pleasure. And just quickly to correct the link for support, it's launchgood.com/Wadea, W-A-D-E-A. That's the one we're using with ICNA Relief, CAIR Chicago and ICNA Relief.
Okay,
until
wonderful.
the end of the month.
Wonderful. Thank you. So if you could please repeat that, and we will also have that link on our website at tlschicago.com. Emma, do you mind please repeating that?
Sure. That is launchgood, one word, launchgood.com/W-A-D as in dog, E-A. That is the name of Wadea, the young boy. Launchgood.com//Wadea. And there is where both CAIR Chicago and ICNA Relief are raising funds for the family through the end of the month.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And I was just mentioning before you joined us that about 12 restaurants in Plainfield are coming together to donate a portion of their receipts on Wednesday for the cause of Wadea. And I will have a list of the restaurants on our website also at tlschicago.com. So, Ahmed, real quick, what are you seeing as far as the community is concerned? I know that there was a protest downtown yesterday, and could you mind telling us about what you have been seeing and what you would like to share with the community?
Yes. Yesterday there was a protest. I heard 25,000 people, one of the largest in the country. I was not a part of that protest. I was involved in a press conference at our offices downtown, where we showcased some of the most recent cases that have come in, spoke a little bit about them to give an idea to the media and the public about what we're facing. And the summary of that is that we're seeing probably the largest volume per day that we've seen since 9/11, and some of the most egregious incidents as well.
So when you say the largest volume, you mean the volume of hate incidents against the Muslim community?
Yes, and so these, there was another hate crime in Lombard, so we've got 2 in 1 week. Usually, you'll get 1 or 2 in a month or a year. And in addition to hate incidents, in addition to hate crimes, there are hate incidents, incidents that are not formally charged as hate crimes, but that involve a hate situation. And there are many other cases that are intimidation, harassment, that sometimes fly under everybody's radar, but that we log as well. And these include things like harassment from a professor to a student, an employer to an employee, a situation at housing or neighbors where there isn't an action that is taken against someone, but still a message sent that you are inferior, or that as a Muslim or Palestinian, you will be made to pay if you speak out.
So coming back to a couple of things now. In an employment situation, if an employer is harassing an employee because they made a comment about the situation, how does an employee handle that? How would you recommend, what are these steps an employee can take?
They would contact CAIR Chicago and file a complaint.
Okay, so CAIR Chicago is CAIR, and what's the website again?
So it's CAIR Chicago, one word, .org, and there you'll find a Get Help link at the top, and then you can file a report for discrimination, and we would look into it. And this could be a situation that may be resolved with an apology and culture sensitivity training, or it can go all the way up to an employment lawsuit. In some cases, people are wrongfully terminated. In some cases, they're harassed and intimidated for posting something that is just contrary to the monopolized line held by the employer and really the country at the moment. nothing that they say that is considered illegal or immoral, but rather just not in line. And that is highly problematic because of freedom of speech, but also because of employment laws. But parallel to that, we're also seeing cases where it isn't so much an employer harassing or intimidating a specific employee, but rather letters that are sent formally on letterhead from the employer that chill the work atmosphere by taking a strong political side in what is happening in the Middle East and catering to the emotions and the feelings and the beliefs and opinions of one community versus many others, and ignoring essentially and erasing the feelings and the emotions of others by erasing the facts that are happening on the ground in Gaza, not commenting about them at all.
Well,
we are seeing a lot of that.
By the same token, I do think that people should be cognizant of the fact that the emotions are really high at this point, and to be careful about their social media postings. I know that last week an employee at Susana Mendoza's office was terminated because she made an Instagram post and it was insensitive, and she was let go. So is that something that we should also be teaching people, be advising people that, be careful. Emotions are high. Be careful what you say, even though you do have freedom of speech. What do you say to that?
I say this should be the case anyway, whether emotions are high or not. I mean, as Muslims, we practice restraint and we abide by certain principles. And these comments that were made by a few individuals, it wasn't just one individual, maybe a couple of cases I've heard of, are repugnant and condemnable, regardless of emotion. It's just something that we don't say or do. And in the case of this woman, whom I haven't met before, but I've asked around, unfortunately, she basically had some kind of a nervous breakdown, has some, mental health pressures that she's now dealing with. And I heard that she's an upstanding, good person, and this moment was one that was more a result of that breakdown. It's unfortunate, though, because obviously, it might not matter for many people. But that's not what we're talking about when we're talking about the cases we're getting at CAIR Chicago. I'm not talking about someone saying something that is offensive, truly problematic, and then we come to their defense. No, we're talking about people who are simply standing up for the human rights of Palestinians, or taking a position that is perfectly acceptable morally and legally, but still is not in line with what their employer or what the majority might want to say, and so they get penalized and punished for it.
Okay, folks, joining me on the line again this morning is Ahmed Rehab, who is from CAIR Chicago. If you have any questions, comments that you would like, you can call in at 773-763-9278. I'm Mohammed Faheem. I'm the host for the Lightning Strike. We come every Sunday morning from 9 to 10 on WCPT, Chicago's progressive talk radio station. Also joining me in the studio today is Ken DeLuke. Ken, you have any questions for Ahmed?
I don't necessarily have a question, but I think it's really important that people realize that just like the Israelis were victims of the Hamas attack, the Palestinians are also victims of Hamas. And you could just tell by, say, the way they're not letting these trucks of aid come into the country. They have a victim narrative. The more the Palestinians suffer, the more control they can exert. So it's not really fair to blame a full ethnic group for the actions of a radical section of where all this thing started, But a lot of people don't differentiate from the two, and I think it's important that people understand that.
Ahmed?
So my response to that is, this is a line I hear a lot, and that line essentially absolves Israel of all responsibility. Hamas, as a word, has become the flashcard that is used by everybody to completely excuse and absolve Israel of its responsibility. I don't like Hamas any more than the next guy. But let's be logical and let's be rational and let's be courageous and real in also understanding that Israel has blood on its hands. If you're afraid to say that, you shouldn't be talking about this.
No, I'm not at all afraid to say that, and I realize there's
Yeah.
On both
Well, let me just
sides.
say this,
But I do have to commend the
just,
fact that they haven't actually, they have cooler heads, and probably by Joe Biden going over there, they didn't react right away. So hopefully whatever measures they're going to be taking forward is in consideration of the Palestinian people.
I do want to comment that, America has a huge role and responsibility in what's happening over there. If Joe Biden says tomorrow, you finish this off to Israel, this thing will end. Okay, so it's not.
Let me say this, because just to be clear, the brother just said they have cooler heads. 1,661 children lay dead in Gaza, not at the hands of Hamas, but at the hands of the bombing and the shelling of the cool-headed Israeli military. That number is larger than the entire number that were killed in Israel, man, woman, and child. Just the children alone, 1,661. Just the children alone. Okay? So when we're talking about cool-headed, when we're talking about, okay, you can blame Hamas all day long, but you can't absolve the ones who bomb from the skies and in neighborhoods and hospitals, children die. That's the problem with the conversation in America. That's what I mean about, having this one-sided approach to it that essentially obfuscates and obscures reality, and so people don't understand the nature of the conflict and the consequences of it.
Okay, we got Steve calling in from the Gold Coast, wanting to talk about the current conflict in the Middle East. And Ahmed, if you don't mind, please stay on the line with us, and let's see what Steve has to say. Steve, good morning. You're on.
Yes, I wanted to make a couple of points. And there are various bodies of research that look into conflicts and how it is that conflicts actually get resolved. And what there's a consensus about a great many things. At the top of that list is that the cycle of violence has got to end. This sort of tit for tat, because it's as soon as you can point out one act of violence, someone will point out the reasoning behind that act of violence that it was a preceding act of violence. Mm-hmm. And until you break those cycles, you have very little opportunity to pursue peace. And the reality is that we tend to think of this as Israeli versus Palestinian, when it could be nothing further than from the truth. The vast majority of Israelis want some sort of a resolution to this, be it land for peace, whatnot. The vast majority of Palestinians do not support Hamas, especially in this endeavor with regard to the attacks that happen. And so this is being framed as if somehow it's one against the other. The reality is it's a small fraction of a segment of people on one side versus an extremist element on another side. And even if you leave out the rest of the international community and Palestine, Hamas, and whatnot, this is a huge divide within Israel and has been for generations among Israelis in terms of how can we achieve long-lasting peace. And unfortunately,
Hey, Steve, thank you so much for pointing that out. But, I'm coming back to the point that I started off with, that words matter. And when our leadership goes and says, oh, it was the other team, I'm sorry, Mr. President, this is not a football game that's going on over there. People are being killed right and left. So don't go on and tell me that it was the other team when the bomb happened to that Al-Ali hospital. And it's not a game. I'm sorry. I'm very upset on that. Ahmed, do you have any comments on that?
Yeah. No, I agree with what you just said, Mohammed. But also, I want to echo and agree 100% with what Steve just said. I think he hit the nail on the head. And I just warned against that yesterday at our press conference in a rather long spiel to the media. I said, stop monolithizing Israelis just as much as you monolithize Palestinians and Muslims. Mm-hmm. This notion of Israel is one block, and it's all Netanyahu. It's part of the problem, I think, how people misunderstand this conflict. Part of the problem is our liberal progressive president shuttled over there and gave his full-throated support to that far-right-wing extreme, component in Israel that is Netanyahu and his cabinet and how they run the military. And I try to explain that, there are a lot of people in Israel who are unhappy with how this war is going, unhappy with Netanyahu, unhappy with occupation and oppression, and we need to empower those voices as the United States. Nobody's saying don't have Israel as a friend, but have the right people in Israel as your friend. This is like saying we have to be friends in the United States, and then essentially coalescing with Trump and the Tea Party and MAGA, for example, for Germany or for France. I mean, nobody does that, right? The second point is to Steve's point, though, yes, I fully agree. The cycle has to stop. But how do you stop it? You got to stop it at the root. And the root, quite frankly, is the occupation. It's the siege. It's the humiliation and dehumanization. Because so long as that's going on, and you don't have violence, you don't have war, but it's happening, people are still suffering. The problem has not been resolved. The conflict has not been resolved. And at some point, there's going to be a pressure valve that's going to blow up, and then we're back again to where we are. And lastly, the West Bank, has just been bombed. There's no Hamas in the West Bank. There's been no violence from the West Bank. So there has to be an acknowledgement, particularly from the cool-headed, level-headed, leaders in Israel, that Israel has to stop this policy through war or through peace of humiliation, of attacks, of raids that deplete the Palestinian dream and hope for freedom.
Okay, Steve, thank you so much for calling in. And do join us every Sunday on the Lightning Strike from 9 to 10 on WCPT. And
Hello?
Yes, Steve, go ahead.
Yes, I just wanted to be clear. You made the statement with regard to the bombing of the hospital. Are you contending that the official narrative that has been verified by independent bodies around the world is not true?
No, I'm not contending anything on that, Steve. All I'm saying is that our president goes and says it was the other team. Words matter.
Yes, but if it was the other team, don't you think we have an obligation to tell the truth about it?
Well, but it's not a game, so I won't use the word team. Ahmed, go ahead. Do you want to respond to that?
I want to say the truth about it. This didn't happen during, a spring break celebration. This happened during a foreign nation's military invasion of that Gaza Strip. So anything that happens at that moment, anything that happens at a point in time, wouldn't have happened had this military not raided this most densely populated civilian area in the world. Regardless of what context and justification, mental gymnastics, had these raids in this fashion not happened, nothing would have happened to these hospitals. So I find it facetious and disingenuous to talk about this team and that team when you have 500 dead people, a massacre that is at least partially to blame for these raids that have no consideration for civilian lives. And we've seen this over and over again. Look at the statistics at any year, including 2008, 2014.
Okay, wonderful. And Steve, thank you for joining us, folks. We have Ahmed Rehab on the line with us from CAIR, and wonderful discussions going on. And obviously, it is time that cooler heads prevail, and people don't blame individuals for this or in individual organizations for this. It is the entire community that is sitting up and taking notice. 25,000 people came out on the streets in Chicago to protest against what's happening in the Middle East, and that happened yesterday, the protest. So keep coming, keep your voices out there so that our leadership listens to us and they respond to what is happening. Emma, thank you so much for joining us, and we will definitely look forward to having you back on the air with us on WCPT.
Anytime, thank you.
And with that, folks, it's time for us to wind up the show with our Person of the Week. And Sheila Williams will be calling us shortly to introduce our Person of the Week. And Tyree, you had the name of the Person of the Week. Who's our Person of the Week today?
So the name is Nate
Atkinson. Yes. Is our Person of the Week. And Sheila, would you mind please introducing Nate to us and let us know what he thinks and what he does?
Hello?
Yes, Sheila, you're on.
Oh, okay. Yes, I am so excited to introduce our special guest. His name is Nate Atkinson, and he is a superhero coach in the Chicagoland, Southland area. Nate, tell us a little bit about your organization and what you do.
Okay, Nate is not on the air with us at this point, but I see that we do have Phil from the North Side who is strongly disagreeing with my comment about what the president said. And again, in all fairness, Phil, I'll give you a couple of minutes to talk about it. Phil, you're on.
Okay. Yeah, listen, there's nothing Biden can do that would end this conflict in the Middle East.
I agree with you on that
That's what
point.
you said, though. You said Biden could end this tomorrow.
Well,
With the teams
here's
thing,
the thing. Here's the thing.
Let me finish.
No, hang on
real
1 second,
quickly.
Phil. Phil, listen to me. Every year, America is giving $3 billion in aid to Israel. Okay, if America cuts up and says, "Hey, cut this out," we're going to cut the aid. Things will end. Okay, that's how powerful we are as a country, Phil.
You know, they've been fighting over there for 2,000 years.
No, sir. Hang on, Phil. Again, I disagree with you on that. The fighting has not been going on for 2,000 years. For hundreds of years, the Palestinians and the Jews and the Christians and the Muslims have been living together as neighbors in that part of the world. All of this started happening after the Balfour Declaration in 1917, and then after 1948, when the United Nations carved out the nation of Israel. We can have a long conversation on this, Phil, but not on the air today. Well, let's get together, have a cup of coffee, and get to know each other and talk about this. And we got Nate back on the air with us. Nathan, good morning. Welcome. And Sheila, go ahead. Take Nate. Nate is on the air with us.
Hey, Nate. Just want you to tell a little bit about who you are and what do you do in your organization?
Well, as y'all said before, my name is Nathan Atkinson, and I am the creator of Prestige Athletic Club. Basically what we do, we are a track and field club, but we are more than a track and field club. We also offer additional programming such as like financial literacy, media training, fundamental training for our children, and we're partnering with BMO Harris Bank this year. We're offering real estate training and commercial banking training as well.
So, Nate, when you are doing this, is that with any particular segment of the population, or is that across the board? My particular interest is a couple of things. Our veterans who are coming back, who need to find productive employment, and also our youth at risk. And the third segment that I am particularly invested in is bringing in people who have been incarcerated, those with a record, back into productive employment. So is there any focus on any of these groups in what you're doing?
I'm focusing on the youth. I focus a lot on the youth kids, and like I said, it's a track and field club. So we basically, we're a youth organization, and within that youth organization, we provide these additional resources for our children that actually competes for us and competes with us.
Okay, Sheila, go ahead, please.
And one thing is important to remember that he's working with children from kindergarten all the way straight through high school, which is really important. You have children as early as 5 years old that are receiving awards in track and field and some other sports. These are kids that are looking to do something not only just after school, but their academics have to be high as well to stay involved in these sports. And he's also interested in working with these young people in the performing arts area. So kids that aren't interested in sports, there is performing arts that he's trying to work with them on so that they have something to do not only after school, but to direct their interest into a certain area.
That's so awesome. So, Nathan, Nate, do you prefer to be called Nathan or Nate?
It don't matter, sir. Nate is fine.
Okay. So what part of town do you work in, and how do people get in touch with you? And is there a website or something that you could share with us?
Yes, I actually work at Joliet West High School. A lot of my programs are actually ran out of Joliet West High School in the summer. We start in June, the first week of June, where all the programming starts. And our website is prestigeathletic.club.org. And you can go on there if you are very interested in the club. You can register on there. We also allow donations because most of our program is funded by donations from the community, the parents, and myself. So all my volunteers they're all volunteers. No one's being paid there. And then we also outsource a lot of the stuff. We outsource a lot of our programming as well. But the point of the whole program is also to bring the community in to help with the youth as well. Because I know a lot of the youth don't know about a lot of the community projects that actually go on in our neighborhood. So I like to partner with a lot of community, like Road to Eternity. I partner with them. I partner with Wayne, photography. He comes in and teach some of the photography classes. I partner with BMO. They come and teach the financial literacy. And we just try to expand that as much as possible.
Hey Nate, I got a thought for you. We always talk about financial literacy and all of that. How about having a program on civic literacy to get people to get involved with with what is happening in our country, how to come out and vote, what is the importance of running for office, and something along those lines. If you would like to do, I would be happy to come and be a coach for your organization.
Absolutely. I truly believe in opening my children's eyes to anything, to any opportunity. So I don't know everything, so I can't teach it all, but I always will partner with anybody that's willing to come in and have that positive energy to teach them something different, because whether we're helping 1 or 101, if we can tap into that one child that actually sees something different. I just use track and field as an avenue to bring the kids in, but the goal is to open their eyes to everything. So absolutely, I would love for you to come down and, we can set it up where we can teach that part of the program and that. Every year I try to add something new to my program.
Also, talk a little bit, Nate, about you're doing something with the media. You're doing media training with students as well. So you're doing something in entertainment as well as sports as well. So talk a little bit about your media aspect of prestigious athletics.
So with the media portion, my vision was to basically be able to put my own message out, but I wanted to be able to see it from the eyes of the children. So I definitely wanted to bring the children in so they can do all the recording, all the training, all these different things. Like we partnered with Lewis University. They taught them a week of training of editing and photos, and also with Wayne McNair photography. He also taught them how to take the pictures and the different angles and stuff. So I want to be able to train the kids so they can also be able to put their own message out there as well. This year we're adding a little bit more on the social media side, because a lot of the people actually communicate through social media. So we want them to be able to sit down and be able to edit those videos and do those different things. So, yes, media is a huge part of my program, because we got to be able to get our vision out.
Okay, folks, on that note, Sheila and Nate, thank you so much for joining us. This is Mohammed Faheem, signing off on the Lightning Strike. We come every Sunday morning from 9 to 10 a.m. on WCPT. Joining me in the studios today, Ken DeLuke and Tyree Pipkins, our intern. And you're welcome to come back to the website, tlschicago.com, to check out who we are and get in touch with us.